All right, we will go ahead and get started here. Thank you everyone for your patience, giving us a couple extra minutes. So do you want to go ahead and start with roll call?
Sure. Matt. I see Matt.
Hey there.
Sarah Merrick. Okay. Scott Strickland. Margaret. Sarah Duckwell. Ryan.
Present.
Save the day.
Thank you, guys.
Stacy Llewellyn.
Present.
Okay. And Patrick is not here today. And I do not see John McKenzie.
Okay.
And Andrew.
Great. So I know we've taken to kind of holding a public comment period. If there's any public comment that folks have, wanted to hold some space for that right now. One more chance for public comment. All right, not seeing any hands or any folks jumping up and down in the peanut gallery, so we can move on to reviewing and approving minutes from November 2nd and December 7th. So we have Sarah moved.
I second.
Second. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? I will note that I abstained from the November 2nd because I was not present for that one. All right, so next we have department updates.
That would be Lauren with the board.
Hi, Sarah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, co-chairs, members of MLAC. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I just wanted to provide a brief update on an administrative rule concept regarding attorney fees that the board has referred to an advisory committee. So for a little bit of background, there are two types of settlements for workers' compensation claims that are governed by the workers' compensation statutes and the board's administrative rules. Those are claim disposition agreements and disputed claim settlements. So when an injured worker is represented in negotiating one of these settlements, the board's administrative rules limit the attorney fee award that the worker's attorney can receive from the settlement proceeds. Specifically, in the absence of a showing of extraordinary circumstances justifying a greater attorney fee award, the board's rules limit the attorney fee award to 25% of the first $50,000 of settlement proceeds and 10% of any additional proceeds. Now, during the board's biennial review of its administrative rules regarding attorney fees, the Oregon Trial Lawyers Association submitted an administrative rule concept, which proposed that those attorney fee limits be revised to allow for greater fees for negotiating claim disposition agreements and disputed claim settlements. After considering public comment on the concept at its December 12th meeting, the board decided to refer the concept to an advisory committee for further review and a report to the board. Once the board receives that advisory committee report, probably in March or April sometime, it will set a public meeting to discuss the report, take further public comment, and decide what further board action is appropriate at that time. And that is all I have today. Does anybody have any questions?
I see Margaret.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear when the board expected to hear back from the advisory committee.
Yeah, so it's not officially set yet. Mark, thank you for your question, Member Waddell. I would expect it would be in April or May.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
Not seeing any. Thank you very much for the update. I want to apologize in my haste to get started here. I forgot the affirmation, so I will take a quick moment to do that before moving on to the other updates. I do want to thank everyone for their time, effort, and participation in our work before us today. I want to recognize that it is very difficult and important work, and I appreciate and value the perspectives and professionalism that everyone brings here today. Thank you.
Thanks.
So seeing next, Workers' Compensation Division updates, if any. Terry?
Yes, and I'm going to pass it over to Andrew right now.
Thanks, and good morning. Hello, everyone online. Happy New Year. I just have one quick update. Of course, at the last meeting, I mentioned how Sally was retiring, and she is now retired. December 31st was a sad day, her last day here. Very happy, however, to share that Matt West, who's been the deputy administrator, he's been appointed the interim or acting administrator of the division for a period of time. So Sean O'Day, who's the agency deputy director, and myself, what we're going to be doing, and I'll want to engage with the co-chairs to figure out how best to get the MLAC's thoughts on this. We're going to be engaging with staff first and foremost, inviting staff at every level to a series of meetings to talk to Sean and myself about leadership of the division and what they're looking for from their next administrator, and then of course MLAC as well as other stakeholders, anyone who's interested to share their thoughts and views and opinions about what they would like to see out of the next administrator, and not just the administrator, but any transitions, a natural opportunity to get feedback about things doing well or things we can do better. Would be great things that I can then charge the next administrator with helping to make sure we do. So to sum that up, Matt is stepping in. He is the acting administrator. We're going to go through a process to get feedback, and Scott, I'll talk with you about how best to do that. I'm happy to talk with everyone on MLAC or arrange it in any other way that you'd like to, staff and then stakeholders as well. So anyone who's listening who wants to share some views and feedback, please just reach out to me. I'll be reaching out certainly to as well.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Question, Sarah.
From my perspective, I think it would be fun going through the co-chairs. If you get MLAC and then they can suddenly just to keep it streamlined. What is the timeline, Andrew?
So we've got sessions starting in a couple of weeks. So what I'm hoping to do, the goal is to take probably 1 to 3 months of time for feedback, depending on how many people want to talk and discuss. The staff sessions will take some time. Where there's we try to figure between 2 different ways to do it, but either way, it'll be a dozen or so hour-long meetings with everyone on staff who wants to meet with us. So that'll take, especially the session, some time. So the goal is, by March or April, to figure out what the next steps are, and we'll certainly share that.
Great. Thank you, Director Stolfi. Congrats to Matt, and congrats again to Sally, too.
I have a couple more things.
Yeah, other updates.
Okay, so we have a rule advisory meeting on the Division 60s, the claim administration. I believe you all should have received an email. That meeting is on January 25th. It starts at 9 a.m. to noon, and it is in conference room F in the basement. We also have another rule advisory meeting on the 120s, the Division 120s. That's vocational assistance, and that is January 30th from 1 to 4 p.m., again in conference room F. That is all I have. Oh, wait. Sorry, I lied. This is the most exciting thing. I'm so excited to share. Baba, are you ready to share the legislative website? This is so cool. I'm so excited to share this. So Angela is not here today, but they have completed the MLAC legislative website with the video and the right there. Right up there is the video. And so this is, if somebody wants to present to MLAC, they would click on our MLAC webpage, you would click on that bottom square and it would take you to that's the video that we all saw in the December meeting. and then it gives information about MLAC. And then when you click on that presenting to MLAC, it goes to our form. See? Isn't that cool? I love it. This is so great. I'm so excited. Anyway, so if you get a chance, go ahead and review it. Let me know if you have any comments or want to make any changes. But I'm really impressed with our communications. They put this together relatively quickly. They had other projects they were working on, but yeah. So I'm so excited that this is done. Great job. You guys did a really wonderful job. It made my job super easy. So anyway, thank you.
Yep,
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's great, and I love having a URL that you can just forward on to anyone that wants to present to MLAC. I think it will streamline things greatly with anyone who wants to bring something forth to this group. And I like the cohesive nature in which we're able to create it. There's one comment that was made by David Berenberg before
Yes.
he left about it said the number of workers impacted, but also adding the number of businesses.
Yes.
So I don't know. I know it's very small.
It is.
Change.
And so when I talked to Angela about that, she said they would have to redo the voicing on the whole video. And she said they would do it, but they wanted to complete this and they will go back and because they have to do the voiceover completely over. So they will do that. They have the comments and it will be done. But we wanted to get this done and then they'll redo the voiceover.
Agreed. I mean, I know it's a small nuance and it's something different. I think just for the balance, it's
Yes.
nice to have it. But
Absolutely.
I think not paramount.
Yeah. Yeah. And Angela did ask me, do you want me to do that? Because if we do, it's going to slow down the process. And I was like, well, if you could do it when you have time, that would be great. But I was super excited that we had this done. Yeah. Yeah.
Just in time for session.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Okay. So sorry.
great.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from folks? We great comment question from Sarah. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'd just like to say great work. I think your communications team did an awesome job on it. When I opened it up, it was informative and easy to navigate. I just wanted to thank you and your team.
Yeah.
Great job.
I'll let them know. Yeah, they're fabulous.
Yep. Great. Thank you. And so I see we have a placeholder, it looks like, for LC presentation, but that we don't
nothing
currently have
today.
anything
Mhm.
today. Next on the agenda, I see work plan update.
Yes. So I did just want to show this to everybody. I think you have one in your file. It's the QR code. And after the December meeting, I sent it out so people could share. And I know December was a super quick month, so maybe people haven't had a chance to share it. Maybe we need to send it out, so people get a chance. I don't know. You tell me what you want to do with this. But this does take you to that web page. I checked it several times just to make sure. But I think it's a really great resource. And we wanted to make sure we tested it with several different audiences before we take the time to print it. Make it permanent, so to say. So, like I said, we want to do a little more testing before we decide, yes, this is what we want to do. So I'm looking for feedback. If you have some, if you don't, that's fine. We can bring it back and talk about it again. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love it. I like the English version. I'm concerned about the Spanish version, that it doesn't take them to the exact same resource, that it's different.
Okay.
And I don't think that's
Okay.
And they don't get the exact same information in Spanish. And the website in general is very hard to navigate in Spanish, except for the publications that are posted.
Yeah.
So I think that's a challenge.
We need some work on that. Exactly. Because we have the publications in Spanish, Russian, and one other language, but it's just limited to the publications. Yeah.
It's not translatably friendly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
I know, speaking to that as well, having worked in kind of job sites and areas where English is not the only language spoken. It's workers will sometimes kind of depend on each other to help kind of navigate an issue when it comes forth. And so if someone's explaining in, cobbled together Spanglish or something like that to a fellow worker, oh, when I went through it, this is where you go and how you navigate. That's a good point, that it may be entirely different for them if they're navigating the website in Spanish or something else. So I think that's a good point.
I like the creativity in coming up with a Spanish publication that as a QR code and maybe in the interim, but if they're not getting the exact same information, I think we're missing
The point.
pieces.
Okay. Okay.
Simply my opinion.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Okay. I'll see what I can do on that. Not me, because I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I'll talk with somebody that's has those skills.
Do you have any other comments on that? Yeah, right.
I would just say, I did print off a couple of these and presented them to a few of my coworkers to see if they could navigate, the form and all that. They felt very knowledgeable getting on there and looking at it. As far as the navigability of it all, it seems to flow really well.
Oh, good. Okay.
Outline that. Of course, they weren't Spanish speakers, so. Yeah.
Okay.
Other comments or thoughts? Okay, so next on the list, I see upcoming meetings.
Can we take a moment since we have the time to maybe go through our work plan and see if there's anything else we want to tackle
Absolutely.
or start? Since we've made some decent headway, I don't want to slow us down. That's up to you.
No, yeah, sure. Is there anything, did you want to just kind of go through the list? I know we all have copies in our packet.
Yes.
I think on the legislative session prep, I think we could cross 2 and 3 off.
Okay.
So can you speak up just a bit?
Sorry, on the legislative session prep, I think the green 2 and 3, we could consider complete.
Okay.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I think that has been accomplished with the notable update to be determined, but yes.
I know you're working on 1. Number 2, the worker-friendly website. That's not an active process, is that, Terry, or just kind of?
Well,
I think that may kind of go hand in hand with the QR code with the landing page as
yeah.
well, and making sure that there's accessibility for different languages as well.
Yeah. Yeah, helping people through the process. One thing that I did, and I think I shared at the last meeting, easy access through smartphones. Our website, the WCD website, is pretty easy to use on smartphones, and most of the insurers, the 801, and we talked about this at the last meeting, they have portals to use on their smartphones. So
Is the 80, I use my phone to access it. Is the 801 fillable? I didn't quite get there with it being fillable from a phone.
If you have it open in PDF, I believe there's a form fill that you can get in there and do it that way, but you have to have it open in Adobe for that to happen. I don't think you can do that directly on the website.
okay.
Yeah, I know a lot of times it'll depend with PDS, it depends on the app that you're opening it. Even on the
True, yeah.
desktop,
Yeah.
it depends, you know, if you're
What version of Adobe you have.
Yeah.
correct.
It didn't seem fillable
Yeah, yeah.
when I opened
Okay.
it.
Okay.
And as I recall in our, I think it was a November discussion, that most agencies have their own, it's not just a statewide form.
Yeah. Well, we have the form on our website, but then you can fill it out, but it has to go to the insurer. So, yeah.
Are the insurer forms fillable from their website?
And I think we had that conversation. Yeah. I think might be available on a tablet.
I mean, if that's the avenue they're going, it's not worth spending a ton of
E- res-
working resources on if they're doing it
Yeah.
in that format.
Yeah.
I did find the website easy to navigate on my phone.
Okay.
There was no issues there. I
Okay.
just think accessibility is probably in reading language.
Yes.
Probably the biggest barrier we're facing.
Okay.
And I know, Scott, you brought up the idea of, you know, kind of a flow chart website with links and stuff. You know, you get injured with step one. And, you know, then, okay, now you have an open claim, you come into the doctor, here's step two. Just to keep that flowing for an injured worker might break it down for them.
I think a lot of times, if you have pictorials like that or infographics, that's more digestible for folks. As sort of like, you are here wayfinding thing at what point in the claim process. I think that can be helpful, and I think that would be hopefully relatively easy to do, because you would have sort of a minimal amount of text on it, so it would be easy to translate as well.
I was just going to say the Ombuds office actually is working on really short videos for workers specific to different parts of the claim process. Like, you know, how do I file an 801? How do I fill this out? How do I do it if my employer refuses, or I don't have the information on for my employer, or how do I change positions? You know, things like that. So we have a whole list of ones that we're trying to work on with communications. And now that communications might not be quite so busy, I think we'll be able to work through that. But we're doing that in English and then also having them done in Spanish.
Oh,
Great.
great.
Can that be shared? I mean, is that something
Mhm.
that can be shared?
Mhm.
Like the
Right. Yeah. It'll be
Yeah.
on the the Ombuds website, and it can be shared. Yeah. We're working on the 801 right now, because we're going through it. You know, we're walking through it like, oh, we know how to do it, so it's really easy. So we're trying to go step by step. How much information is too much information? So we're working on that right now. It's kind of a basic PowerPoint with transitions and stuff. It'll be and have a voiceover. Simple, but we wanted something without having the voice and the visual might be helpful. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think that'd be very helpful, and accessible for folks, especially with having it be spoken as well. And I think a lot of times that is helpful to have something that's revisitable, or where you could, I don't know if there's a way to do this, where you could bookmark or at least write down, oh, okay, I'm at 2 minutes in or something like that. So I know as my claim continues to be processed, I can come back and go back to wherever it is. Because I know that having been through the process myself, there was a lot of, hurry up and wait in between steps, and knowing the rights that apply to specific steps that, here's MCO enrollment. Now there's a whole kind of list of process as to how that works, and what rights I have in terms of, bringing my own provider, selecting a different MCO, or contesting the enrollment, all kinds of stuff like that, for many folks, those issues never activate. And so you're right, with the flood of information and, here's all of the potential tree of where you could end is overwhelming. But if you sort of stop at each step that the individual's at, then you have an accessible amount of information of, oh, okay, so here are my three, the three rights that apply to me now in this stage, that then seems empowering for workers.
Taking kind of like the most asked questions that we get from workers in 911.
So that could be a linkable flow chart
Mhm.
as well. I mean, that
Mhm.
could work
Okay.
very well. I mean, I know, Scott, we talked about ultimately maybe that being the landing page for the poster. I don't know if that can be by law, or just finding, something, as a universal landing page.
I know a lot of times maybe not a graphic designer. Apologies to all of those of you who may be that this is going to be terrible, but or amateur hour. But I know a lot of times you may have a map embedded in a page, or an infographic embedded in a page that you could embed the sort of know your rights flow chart at the bottom of the page or the top or something like that, so that someone can scroll down, and when they see that and they think, oh, that looks accessible to me, and they click that, and then it brings the page up. I don't know if that would be helpful or possible, or the level of interactivity, like you said, with a flow chart, if you could click kind of next or something like that. I know, a lot of times people will leave a tab up on their phone for a month or year or however long it is, that they can have that and kind of click refresh or something as they, oh, okay, it's been 2 weeks, I've gotten this new enrollment letter. What do I do now, or how can I handle that?
Barb, do you have it? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andrew. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just to circle back to Sarah, your question about billable 801s, title sidebar of the team. Understanding is many, not sure exactly, but some insurers definitely offer billable 801s on their websites. We can look into how prevalent or common that is, and also look into whether, because we have rules around this, whether we could rule require or separately just encourage every insurer to offer billable.
I think that's great. I would lean towards encouraging, just because I know that with a lot of the database programs that are accessible to even smaller businesses and stuff these days, of fillable forms embedded, or scripts that generate, from information you fill on a web page, that then can sort of generate a form out of that. I wouldn't want to tamp down on that, folks experimenting with that. I don't know how you would write a reg that I assume you could, that would encourage sort of either option, but I know a lot of times folks, with the Google Forms and other things like that people have. I assume an insurer would use something a little more premium than that, or something custom tailored, but I think that I'm open to any of that. I think that's a good point.
I would think insurers probably are going that direction anyway. I mean, they want things to be accessible and easy, so maybe it's taking care of itself.
One thing I would say that is I find supremely important in my job is making sure that that you've run OCR on the PDFs, or optical character recognition, so that the PDFs are highlightable and searchable. Because I think especially with other documents and information, a lot of times, if there's 90 pages of things and I'm looking for a specific issue, searching is helpful. Or if I'm trying to do some translation work, because maybe I speak a language, I'm an individual from a community that speaks a language that isn't as easily discoverable in terms of having government forms in that language and accessible, that I can highlight that and work on translating it. Just an idea to throw out there as well.
From that, it seems like if we collaborate with the Ombuds office, maybe number 3 is in the works, with the videos and podcasts, and something that could be more of a collaborative effort, if they're willing. Just a thought. Is there any training we want to undertake? DEI, insurance perspective. I think when we have like meetings, it would be super helpful to have some more educational opportunities brought to us.
Okay.
I know I've been a broken record on the DEI for us.
I think we need to keep being a broken record. The more we say it, the more we do it, the more we live it. I mean, I'd love number 2, number 3, 4. I think all are really good opportunities to make us a more knowledgeable group.
Do you think maybe potentially after this session, I think we'd have a pretty long time because it's a short session that we'd be able to devote a meeting or two to between short and long session in this interim?
Yeah, I mean, and just in general, Terry, I think if we have a light agenda, it might be an opportunity to
Bring it in.
I mean, not last minute, I know that's hard on everybody, but just if we have any opportunities, I think using our time effectively and efficiently.
Okay.
I think if we have those coincide with our in-person meeting. Probably best.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. That's a great idea. Okay.
Absolutely. So maybe our first of March, is it March or April?
April.
Have some education opportunity there. I like that idea.
Yeah, I think that's great because I know a lot of times the follow-up questions as everyone's filing out the door are really helpful for folks too. So.
And we will have a report soon, I'm not sure when, on the annual Workers Benefit Fund and the biennial permanent partial disability report. I'm just not sure when. Soon.
And then is that worth following up with the Kansas resumption? It says tentative 24 sometime this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're, if memory serves, we're waiting on the NIOSH report, and then as soon as that's out, then we will review it.
I don't know when it comes out.
Okay. With the trainings, is there anyone that you would prefer first, second, third, fourth, or just whatever?
I would recommend the DEI because I think that a lot of that has to do with kind of active listening and being aware of where you're coming from. And I feel like once we've had that it would be, we would be a little more open to listening to the insurer and injured worker perspectives and have some kind of mindfulness techniques to understand better and put our self in the shoes of those individuals.
Okay.
Now, one thing that we talked about was the kind of focus groups or listening tour. I think number 8 in that first column. And having other meeting locations, potentially meeting in points south, east, or west of the I-5 corridor.
Good river.
Shall we do come to my location meetings? You said Hood River.
I'm kidding. I don't mind that.
Yeah, like a bring your kid to work day, but
Yeah.
bring MLAC to your job site day. So I don't know if we could identify maybe some locations that we have. I know, the support technologically and everything else may be difficult in some areas, but just kind of what the potential locations are and how we could coordinate that.
Okay.
I know
will.
that we've talked about having the meetings up in the Portland region, but I don't know if there are other of those facilities available, and where those would be.
Okay.
Scott, do you envision like a listening tour that theme kind of that, inviting more public to come in and communicate with MLAC some of their
Sarah, I'm
concerns?
sorry, but when you're talking that
Sorry,
way,
we
we
can't.
can't.
Some of their concerns or wishes or challenges that they would like to bring. I mean, I think it would have to be a more communication effort to the community, or it's for naught.
Right. No, I think the idea that I have is, I know when I was in law school, the Oregon Supreme Court would kind of hold court in different locations around the state, even in a high school or something like that. So it was sort of making the institution accessible to the people. So I know that a lot of times when we've had folks, whether small business or injured workers or others that engage, it will be an individual from a rural community or an individual from somewhere that we don't typically hear from that is showing up to talk about an issue. So I think even making MLAC and DCBS and whatnot kind of more active in the people's communities where the injuries are happening and the businesses are running and all of that is always helpful and a positive thing. So if we could identify sort of where the locations are theoretically that we could do this, if I don't know if there's WCD offices, where all of the offices are, where DCBS offices are, that we could identify where those locations are, and then that would give us an idea of, oh, okay, so there's one in, Pendleton, just to throw a possibility out there, or, oh, there's one in Eugene, or there's one in, Tillamook or something like that. That then we know that those are where the locations are, and then we could say, hey, we're going to have an in-person meeting in September or whenever the one later in the fall is, and this would be a good candidate to meeting there, and so then that gives DCBS time to sort of put the word out, hey, MLAC's coming to town, come learn about workers' comp and express how it impacts your community or something like that. And I think even if we just go and have that meeting, I know that I went through the process as an injured worker, now medically stationary. I did not know that MLAC existed. I had a friend of mine from law school who was serving on MLAC who invited me to come observe an issue, and I think it was a small meeting, and so I think it was the co-chairs at the time sort of invited people to come up and sit at the table around here and then share stories, and I got involved in the discussion, and had I not had that connection, I would not be here. So I think a lot of times those, engaging people in the institutions that they're not aware of existing because it's convenient to them now, we may find a kind of broader, more diverse group of folks to engage in the process, which is always a positive in my mind. I saw a question hand. Yeah.
Well, I was just curious if there's any thought, one of the complaints that we got when we've done tried to do some of the mobile tours and maybe historically was that they got more action when they did them after hours, because especially when you're looking at trying to reach some of our Spanish-speaking communities who are working in the farm district. They can't take time off when they don't want to. So had more success in the evening.
Yes, I think that, and I don't know if we can have it, if there's not a DCBS office available, if there's a community center that would be available that would have childcare provided. I know that these are all critical issues in terms of actually getting the engagement. So yeah, I think these are great ideas, but I think as identifying the locations that we have, we can sort of then build around that. Oh, okay, so we're talking about meeting here. We know that, it's a farming community, so folks will be available after hours, but not early on because it's, a lot of the folks work really early hours, or whatever the needs of that specific community are. Maybe it's somewhat isolated, so transportation's a concern, so we know not to do it in December. All of that, I think we can kind of, when we've identified a few candidate locations, we can then build around that. But great point, Director Solpe.
Thanks, Matt. So great idea, I love it. would just throw out there for you to consider as well, and we'd be happy to help with this, of course. Right, so there's your rights as an injured worker, but the other half to this, and what we always talk about, is just what your rights as a worker are around workplace safety and health. That's why the Ombuds office, we expanded it 2 years ago to not just be injured workers, but just work, you don't want to be injured workers. And you made the point about how can we encourage more people to show up. So these listening sessions and meetings, we're talking about kind of both halves of that. It might be a way to get more people there, and we've got plenty of people with expertise on the OSHA side that can help educate more on this.
I think that's great. I think that'd be a great opportunity to, as I always say, when you get to workers' comp, it's a zero-sum game. At that point, there's a cost. It's who's going to pay it, and how do you apportion that? But when you don't have the injury, that's a win. That's the win-win, or win-win-win if we're including insurers too. Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea, and that would be great. Kind of help folks understand that.
Would it be worthwhile to also consider some employer aspects as well, where you're going over return to work and really talking about that partnership in that process between the injured worker and the employer, and how they work together to get the worker back and navigate the worker comp system and all of that together?
Absolutely, and I think engagement with the small business ombuds would be great too, and that's, I think, one of the things too. I know in Oregon it seems that we have there are areas that are definitely heavy with one industry or another, and so kind of understanding, even for all of us at the table, we represent a somewhat diverse background of the industries that we've worked in or worked for. But I think I know a lot of times you get isolating impact in some of the areas where if we go and we listen to the concerns of, like logging communities or other things, fisheries, things like that come to mind, sort of what their concerns are, what the things that they are dealing with, both from worker perspective and employer perspective, I think is helpful in informing us on the work that we need to do.
We're just giving small employers resources that they don't know are out there. It's super important. I live in an ag community where a lot of the small ag employers don't know what resources are out there, even through their insurer, until they end up with a workers' comp claim. So being proactive on all sides and fronts is very beneficial.
Yeah.
Shall we highlight number 8 then too?
I highlighted it.
Yeah, and I think it'd be relatively low risk. We could do a kind of an individual, a trial meeting, just a one, so it's not a commitment to a grand tour of the state or anything, and see what kind of response we get if we want to make that a recurring thing.
I love the idea of really targeting a community where hopefully you can get that impact, whether it's ag or fishing, logging, what have you.
Yeah.
Do we see much coming to MLAC in the short session?
The bills haven't dropped yet, and nobody has contacted me, which is really kind of surprising. I thought I would hear a little more. So I'll have to, we'll wait and see. It'll be a surprise. Yay!
Kind of along those lines, a little off subject too, if you don't mind. I know that Sally had said in September that they were looking for a fix to the Glidden, and initially some stakeholders had thought it could be a rule, but Department thought it should be a legislative fix, and she was going to give us an update, but she decided to. So do we know where that is?
Yeah, I can give a quick update. So that
It's just too far off topic.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so currently at the division level and agency level, we're looking at legislative concepts for the 25 session, and that's on the list of concepts that we're looking at whether or not to move forward. So we're in the stages of kind of weeding that out, and then we'll have a meeting at the agency level. So it's being discussed currently.
2025.
Correct. The long session.
I've heard there's been a lot of really tamping down in 2024, keeping to the basics.
Yeah,
Yes.
And
we
I
typically don't
think that-
put forward like big policy bills during the short session. That's why we're looking at it. Now, we've also, I think OVA has some interest in that in the case, and there's a possibility they could push the legislative concept forward. We haven't heard, so.
Yeah.
It seems like a big time frame for relatively a little fix, but, you know, I also know that little fixes, you know, you want to make sure that little fix doesn't cause a big problem down the line.
Yep. Yeah, and Sarah was right about the session as well. So, I mean, the timeframes were a long time ago anyway for 24. Any bills that agency puts forward, the governor's office, the governor has to sign off on, and the direction for 2024 is, you know, governor has her top 3 priorities, and unless something's an emergency,
Right.
you know, and it's a short session anyway, so
Right.
it's hard to get policy bills through. So,
Right.
but we're,
It's not really an emergency unless you're.
yes. But we'll know, I think it's in April, kind of what gets signed off on, and can right after that come to start the discussion.
Well, if we end early, I'll just go across the street and we'll stir some stuff up and we'll get some bills generated.
Yeah. We'll think that legislators, committees, you know, others can introduce things. So if, you know, there's always legislators looking for, if it's an easy bill or an easy fix, we can help find something.
I was just curious as to where it was in the timeline.
Great. Thank you, Margaret. Any other thoughts, suggestions? Not seeing any. So I know the only other thing that we have slated is the upcoming meetings. So it looks like there's one listed January 18th, which is hybrid, and February 1st, also hybrid. I know that may be to some extent dependent on the volume of work that we have and where we're at in the work plan. But perhaps we can get together and see if there's any work plan topics that we'd like to push forward, and co-chairs can be in touch with Terry on sort of what it looks like coming down the pike from legislative concepts.
Sounds good.
Any other closing comments? Good to the order. I hope everyone had a safe and healthy holiday and New Year. I see Director Solfi has.
Yeah, sorry. There was one other matter I meant to give an update on earlier.
Sure.
Just real quick. David Waukee had retired last year. He's been continuing on under a contract, so it's been seamless, but he's retiring. And so we launched, gosh, in late November, a recruitment for the next small business ombuds. That closes this Sunday, and then we'll start going through, the interview process to pick our next small business ombuds. We have very robust processes here for hiring positions like that, so we'll definitely want to, we'll have stakeholder and other panels, people to interview probably the finalists. So I'll reach out through the co-chairs and figure out how to engage them in that process, but we'll certainly want to get on that.
Do you have a request pool?
Yes, yes. A couple more days, but yes, very robust pool.
And are they changing to ombudsman versus, aren't they still the ombudsman?
I think they still are. I never call, yes, but we can definitely change that.
Like an opportunity.
Yes.
If you shorten the name, you could do a bigger print on the business. Sorry, we just finished our contract, and so I went through and formatted all 120 pages. So I got deep into the typography thing. So yeah. Again, apologies to all the professionals out there. So, Great. Well, thank you. That sounds exciting. Glad to see where we go on that and what candidate is able to get that position. Great. Well, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your time and look forward to a productive new year.